going to get into what's right over my shoulder, the pyramid. So, it looks far away from here, but it's really closer than what it looks. It's the lens, but it's actually very close and very big. But it's fitting that we get into the pyramids in the last part, because the pyramids is the clue to bringing everything together. The pyramid is going to make everything fit. And then going into the pyramid of Onyx and looking at the pyramid text, it's really getting into the pyramids themselves and getting people to understand why the pyramid shape. When you think and you look around the world, remember I showed you guys there's pyramids all over the earth. Why that shape? What's up with the shape? Why the pyramids? What's up with the capstones? Why is everything the way that it is when it pertains to the pyramids? It is really the clue to putting together this whole mystery. Everything seems to be pointing towards Kemet, pointing towards Saturn, except for the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs is pointing towards nothing. You just have these beasts that existed for millions of years, and we don't understand the purpose of their existence, which tells us what? Intelligent life did not begin here on Earth. It's just that simple. It didn't begin here on Earth. This Earth wasn't first prepared for us, but prepared for them, for the dinosaurs and for the animals that was here. It's just that clear. So when you understand that, you understand intelligent life did not begin here. You look at, creation. You look at the woman. And obviously clear, as I talked about, she was put here first. So the thing is, what you really got to ask yourself and you got to think about it is, okay, we can get into, 666 and everything like that, 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, that gives us carbon, that gives us life. We could talk about all that. But, we really just have to take it back to the basic, simple question that we always speak about. If we evolved from primates, as I talked about, how come we are not seeing this evolution now? We are not seeing primates, turn from primates into humans. We're not seeing that. If it's all about 6 electrons, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 666 and everything like that, if we crawled out of the primordial waters, or whatever you call it, if it's about these elements that came together to create the woman, how come we're not seeing it? We're not seeing women just come into existence out of nowhere. So that tells us that the woman had to be created. She had to be created. It's really going back to that whole saying, as I talked about before, what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the woman or, the baby? And you can't get the baby without the woman. Plain and simple. So again, she had to be created. She had to be made. We are not seeing existence of human beings outside the womb of a woman. It's just not happening. We're not seeing men and women come into creation outside the womb of the woman. The woman brings us into this planet. It's something that we all understand and know. So when you really get into it, and it's just, we bombarded by so much, it's stuff that we really don't think about, but we can settle it all right there with just that question. She didn't birth herself. Everything comes into existence. Every human came into existence by a woman. How did she come into existence? She had to be created. It's just that simple. So we can, right there, just by getting that technical, X out evolution. We can get rid of it. No, we didn't. And I went through all that on YouTube, and I went through all that. That's why I got into this stuff. So when we get to this final part, you will really be able to grasp that. We did not come about through evolution. Plain and simple. When you look at the animals, they have a different consciousness. They have a different comprehension. Plain and simple. Billions of insects and animals on the planet. Now, one of them has the comprehension of man. And we understand that because one, you can be driving down the road. Just give you a quick example. And the more you drive, the more roadkill you see. And you have to start thinking to yourself, how stupid can these animals be to not just wait for the cars to go by? I mean, this is your life we're talking about. It's over if you get hit by this car. How dumb can they be, to not just wait till there's absolutely no cars, till they're 100% sure to cross the street? Yet we see countless animals, birds, Getting hit by cars, roadkill. You see flies flying right at your car at Mach 10 when you're going down the road, thinking that, your window, they're able to fly right through and come out the back. And, the consciousness of animals does not equal the consciousness of man. So if we evolve as they did, we will have their consciousness. We do not. But it's clear to see that this planet and the animals that are here, or was here too, was used to create these bodies that we have now. It's just that simple. There's no way around it. You can't look at the ape and not see you. I don't care if you're black or white. The hands look exactly like us. We know. We share these genes and we share this DNA, as I got into. So we are a, unique creation in the universe, plain and simple. I don't think people understand how complex our brain alone is, how complex the human body is. A lot of thought went into the creation of us. We are seriously complicated. This is not something that is just put together out of the blue. We are very complex people. And when you think about something, creating something that has to hold this much energy and a consciousness, I mean, it's amazing that they were able to do what they did in our creation. So we understand that we share genes, DNA with animals, and that we also share DNA and genes with whoever our creator is. The thing is, it's really hard to tell exactly where this creation took place, but it obviously didn't take place here on Earth. It had to have taken place somewhere else. So we are told, the Earth is unique, that the Earth is the only planet that can support life, and da-da-da. And then we found out later on that, possibly people live on Mars. It's possibly people living on Titan, which is one of the moons of Saturn. And of course, the Greek gods, in Greek mythology, the Titans were, in Greek mythology, and a lot of the moons of Saturn are named after those Titans. The Titans were giants. Kronos, the god of Saturn, all that is going into Greek mythology, as I said, not a coincidence. Now, again, I talked about this before, the movie Prometheus. When they go onto that planet, they fly past Saturn and basically land on one of the moons of Saturn, which is where they find out that, aliens created human life. They go into a place that has the atmosphere of Earth, and they find out that these aliens that look, like us, we look like them, created us. And, you can't get much more clear than that and get into the understanding of what that movie is trying to tell us, which is why I use it a lot. And I was shocked at, the fact that they put that movie out the way that they did. It's giving away what a lot of people have already come to realize in esoteric circles a long time ago. As I said, this information is old. It's kindergarten stuff. It's stuff that a lot of people who've done their research is going to come to this same conclusion. So for some of you, this information might be like, wow, but this information it's been out here. It's been there. And a lot of people have gotten to that point, which you'll be at the end of this DVD, where you just say, okay, well, I got to learn everything else. There's a lot more to come to it that goes with it, but at least I got to this point where I can understand the situation that's going on, possibly going on here on the planet. So when you step back and start looking at the picture, that we were definitely created and put here on this planet, and everything that, that entails, all the questions that start to pop up when you start dealing with that aspect of us and, our purpose and, why were we created, what's going on and everything like that. Then, all the pieces start to fall into place when you start looking and searching and going back through history and looking at stuff. And as I will show you in this video, and as you will find out through your own research, there are so many different stories, so many different lanes you can go. The only thing you can do is connect the dots and put the pieces together that fit. Because when you get to this level of knowledge and information, when you start getting to this point, the only people that have the 100% true, correct answers, I would say, or the true story, are the powers that be, the people who actually know. As I said, we can only put together where the facts lead us, which is what I have done, and what a lot of people
have done, and it's cool because I try to stay away from. This is why I don't really watch too many YouTube videos. Why I don't really go into too many other people's stuff. And I find out, through a lot of you guys that, when I'm talking about stuff and I put stuff out, that people always say, well, have you read such and such book? They came to the same conclusion. I go and read the book and I'm like, wow, it validates my research to know that, before I came to this conclusion, somebody else had already came to the conclusion, and it validates my research and lets me know that the path that I was on and looking for all this stuff and trying to put together the pieces, I was on the right path blindly, on my own, just trying to figure it out, and was coming to the same conclusion as everybody else. That's validation. That's when you've done right research. You've done research, you followed the breadcrumbs, and it led you to the correct place. So dinosaurs ruled for millions of years during the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous period. And during that time, while they was ruling, while they was on the earth, there was something going on in the universe. There was Star Wars. So, Star Wars begins a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There was, Star Wars. And everything points to it actually being a war in space. So when you go to the Bible, remember the Bible talks about the war in heaven. And, what is heaven? The heavens is basically space, as I talked about before. We understand that the heavens is space. Even when you go into Genesis and read about the firmament and everything like that, it's giving you the hint that the heavens is basically space. So there was this war. Everything points to this war happening. And in the Bible, we know, Satan fought the war, and he was basically banished to earth because of the war and everything like that. And when you understand esoterically who Satan is, esoterically, Satan represents us black people. Now, Satan has many aspects, of course, and you have to understand what aspect it's being used. But Satan represents us. Now, even though when you read the Bible in Genesis, it doesn't immediately get into this war. We understand later in the Bible, it speaks about the war, but we understand that the war happened before humans was created. Because we know when you get to the garden, Satan was in the garden, around the time humans was created. So he had to be banished to the earth, before we was created. So we understand that. So the key word is long ago in Star Wars. Long ago, something happened. There was this huge war. And from everything that we can ascertain, my research, the Bible gives us that hint. So we understand esoterically that Satan represents black people and that our reptilian brain represents Satan and basically our fall in consciousness. Then, things really start fitting and making sense. So it's telling you, one, Satan fell because of the war. He fell because of the war. We fell because of consciousness. We are here because of our fall, because of this war. Plain and simple. So when you look at Satan falling and his angels being locked away, as Jude talked about, his angels was locked away in chains. His angels represents Satan's power. Plain and simple, Satan wouldn't be able to wage war without his angels. But the angels of Satan basically represents our consciousness, which is our powers. So Satan's angels being locked away is a metaphor for saying that our consciousness was locked away, our DNA was locked away, and we was basically banished here. Now, understand, as I'll explain later, this didn't happen immediately, after the war. It seems as if the war was going on and we came here to this planet, or we was put here on this planet. We came here due to some kind of capacity involving war. They speak about, basically 5 levels. And it's weird because the 5 levels can represent 5 dimensions, or you can kind of, put them in that order. But you're talking about people mastering the planet that they on. Mastering the planet and using all the planet's resources. That's one. Then mastering the sun. So you master the planet, all its resources. You master the sun and how the sun works with the planet to help you, basically expand. And you master the earth, the sun, and then you master your solar system. So Earth, Sun, your solar system, everything, all the planets that's close, and you understand how to harness and use the energy of the planets close to you and the resources from the planet close to you. That's 3. So you have the planet, the sun, the solar system, then a galaxy. Harnessing the power from your entire galaxy. Understanding every planet, being able to travel to every planet, which would then, once you master all that, would give you the power to dimensionally shift, to shift dimensions. So as I've said, there's a lot of aspects to Satan. You have good, bad, light, dark, masculine, feminine, black, white, what have you. So many different aspects to Satan. You just have to understand in what aspect he's being referred to at any given time. So, it can be very confusing if you're not familiar with the esoteric teachings of Satan and all of the occult knowledge. So this is why there's a lot of confusion when it involves him, because, he can really Satan can mean so many different things. So you really got to get into the esoteric teachings, which I have a lot more coming up on Satan down the line, to really grasp everything. So if you've been watching the videos on YouTube and everything like that, you kind of sort of should have an understanding that he represents so many different things. So now it's clear that there was a civilization here on Earth that was highly advanced, highly advanced. Now, the Egyptians and the Sumerians talk about a global society, a world society, which explains all the pyramids all over the planet. Plato talks about Atlantis, and that he heard about Atlantis from the Greek Solon, and Solon heard the story from the ancient Egyptians. And a lot of people say that, the design for the pyramids basically comes from Atlantis, but, it's pyramids all over the planet, so you can't really tell by that. But, from my research, and again, this may be tough for a lot of people to grasp if you haven't seen everything. But from my research, there definitely was a war. So, yeah, again, before we keep going, we're going to get into a lot of things that's spooky. And as I said, when you get to this level of information, which this is part 6, the first 5 was about a bunch of stuff. But when you get to this level of information, it's not but so much facts that we have. But I always do what if then, as I talked about before when I do my research. If this is true, why is this way? If it's not true, then why is that way? Now, the moon, I've shown you in a lot of movies how the moon is destroyed. The moon is destroyed in so many different movies, and it's trying to tell you something. So when we talk about this war, when you look at the moon, one, is so many craters on the moon, as if, the moon has been attacked repeatedly. There's a lot of books out there who built the moon that really digs into the moon and just asks a lot of questions that make a lot of sense. And everything points to the moon being a construct and being perfectly put in precise position in relation to the sun and our planet for a reason. So what is that reason other than something that is going to affect this planet in a negative way, especially with all of the deception that's surrounded? So when you look at it, you can see clearly that something is up. Now, in order for meteors to hit the moon at the rate that it looks like it's been hitting them, one, we can look up and see it. So that means these meteors would have had to go around the planet, which has a gravitational pull, and then go up and hit a lot of these places on the moon. It's just a lot of these things, when you look at them, it's just like common sense stuff. Like, that's bullshit. There's no way. So it looks as if the moon was attacked. And the only way that these craters in a lot of places make sense is as if they was coming from Earth, as if it was, some kind of attack on the moon and they were trying to blow up the moon. Again, as I talked about before, when you fly across the planet, when you have flown as much as I have, you see the planet. A lot of places I've flown over look like scorched earth. It just looked like something happened. And I'm talking about at the middle of America, when you fly across the U.S., it's a large part that look like ruins, that look like scorched earth. Take the flight from Philly to Phoenix, or from Philly to Vegas, East Coast, to Vegas. You can see what I'm talking about. Anybody that's taken that flight and looked out the window, you know what I'm talking about. It looks crazy. And again, when you look at where we live, we occupy probably 10 to 20% of the state in almost all the states in America. The rest of the state is just empty space. Now, it's hard for people to fathom that, but you got to understand we have roads. That's what roads are built for. Roads are made so you go a certain way. So if it ain't no road there, I mean, you're not going to drive in the middle of nowhere. It's no civilization. It's no gas station, no stores or what have you. You're most likely not going to go out there. So a lot of people follow the roads, and the roads take you away from certain areas for a reason. But when you fly across the U.S. and the planet, Europe as well, some stuff is just undeniable. And you can see that, stuff look crazy, it look weird. And we have not, as people, been able to individually go and really examine the planet and what has been taking place. We rely on researchers to do that. We don't really have the time. And then probably if you go into certain areas anyway, you're going to be stopped. But we bombarded with work, got to do this, got better things to do. So we don't go and explore like that. Now, it's no coincidence that George Lucas created the Death Star and made it look like Iapetus, which is the moon of Saturn. He was trying to make that connection between Saturn and the moon and get people to understand that esoterically. And a lot of people did. When you start digging into the information, as I said, it's going to lead you to Kemet. It's going to lead you to Saturn. And you're going to start getting into Greek mythology, all the moons and everything like that. This is where all the stuff is leading. So I believe, from my research, from looking at everything, that Atlantis was the civilization that fought this war, and that they probably built some kind of weapon that was able to destroy the moon, but they was basically, destroyed before they could finish it. So when you think about the moon, which has a gravitational pull that is supposed to affect the tides on Earth, so if the moon is in fact a construct and can move like a Death Star, so to speak, then it could possibly affect the tides on Earth, which could cause a big enough wave to basically, send Atlantis, crashing underwater. And it's possibly what happened. A lot of the researchers will say that the ice that was covering basically all of Canada and some of the northern part of the United States basically melted. And that water basically is what caused the sinking of Atlantis, which is possible, but that could have also been done on purpose when you think about how fast that is supposed to have happened. And the fact that these people were smart, they were geniuses, they wouldn't have known, they would have understood that it probably wouldn't be a good idea to build Atlantis where it was because of the ice. And if that ice melts, what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure that they would have known that, being as intelligent as they were, and probably would have took that into account. But, it's things that you have to look at when you get into the situation. But all accounts point to that. They point to them building this machine. A lot of times when you see the pictures of Atlantis, you see this tall, pointy tower. And it's weird when you go into the Bible, when you go into Genesis 11, 1 through 9, which another weird thing is when you look at Genesis 11, the first 9 verses is dealing with this tower. So you have tower 911. So that's a weird thing right there. But when you get into Genesis 11, the first 9 verses talking about the tower, remember, it's talking about the tower that the children of men are supposed to build. And, everything that's talking about, remember, it's talking about in verses 6 and 7. It says, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, so that they may not understand one another's speech. And we could possibly take that back to Atlantis. You can fit that with a lot of different things, but it makes you think about why this tower was destroyed, why the people were scattered. And basically, that's what happened when Atlantis sank. I mean, it sank and the people were scattered, and Atlantis was supposed to be where, the hub for the consciousness of the people that, when you go look at all these civilizations had these pyramids, Atlantis was supposed to be the hub for that, where all the information was coming from and everything like that. So if you destroy Atlantis, you basically destroyed the spiritual connection for the people around the world. And when Atlantis was wiped out, everybody was scattered. And this goes into the whole flood story, which you see in Genesis, And you have all the different flood stories throughout the world, through Kalion the Pharaoh and everything, Greek mythology, and Epic of Gilgamesh and everything. And there's so many different flood stories. So, when you start getting into biblical religion and other religions and recorded history, because you have civilizations that recorded this flood, it fits. The information begins to fit. So the question is, how powerful was the Atlanteans? How much did they know? Was the fall of man caused by the fall of Atlantis? There's so many questions surrounding that, because when you think about the implications of what we should be capable of, what we should be able to do once reaching, full spirituality, full enlightenment, they shouldn't have been able to beat us. So it's really safe to say that Atlantis was still tapped in, but they didn't reach, they wasn't at full power in these bodies for whatever reason, but they were still technologically advanced. They were smart. They were still tapped in. They understood the situation of what was going on. But, when you look at, as I said, any civilization, no matter who they is, alien, human, that relies on material, it's not that powerful. So these beings, whoever they are, as I said, the war was over energy. Whoever they are not that strong. They are not infinite energy. They rely on draining energy to sustain themselves. We are infinite energy, plain and simple. So they can only understand beginning and end. We're dealing with matter, plain and simple. When you're dealing with matter, it's a beginning and an end. The only way you can sustain that matter is with an abundance of energy. So when you get into the Demiurge, which we're going to talk about, goes into Gnosticism, which we'll get into. This is what it's about. When you get into Satan, remember, represents materialism. You need an abundance of energy to sustain the material. You're dealing with beginning and end. Beginning and end is a construct of time. Plain and simple. It's something that we don't have to deal with, but we're dealing with because we've fallen and we don't understand how to completely recharge ourselves without sleep. Which is why, again, as I said, when that moon is out, your energy is drained. You're sleepy, you're tired, you go to sleep, and you become God. And you wake up and you're recharged, and you don't even understand what you just did and how powerful and how amazing, what just happened was, the dream, as I got into in videos on the dream. But these beings are not that powerful. And the war before these bodies was created seemed to have been a spiritual war when they had some kind of advantage, possibly, or, we just wasn't ready. It's so much to get into. So many different stories, so much information, which we will get into, in this video down the line. But everything points still, Atlantis here. And after that, we get the Egyptian civilization, which I believe, and researchers believe the same thing, was a civilization that coexisted along with the rest of the world in Atlantis. So the pyramids, when they were completely done and the whole civilization was there, intact, Atlantis was still around. A lot of people don't know either. When you go to Herodotus never mentions the Sphinx. And this is what a lot of researchers talk about this. Herodotus never mentions the Sphinx. We know he know all about the Egyptians, which tells us, one, either he just didn't mention it, or the Sphinx was probably still buried under the sand during his life, which we're talking about the 5th century BCE. And that's really, really interesting when you think about that, because we found replicas of the Sphinx in Israel that indicate that such a thing did exist. But if it was still buried at that time, that tells us it was still buried in the 5th century BCE. That tells us that, the pyramids are definitely older than we realize, and that it fits with everything else, that they would still be buried around that time. So we're supposed to be infinite energy, infinite consciousness. So you have infinite energy. And again, I talked about before how we recharge, how this goes on over and over and over every single day. And we seem to have this abundance of energy that is infinite. The only thing that really kills us is the fact that our bodies can't take the daily grind that we go through every day and recharge every day, and us not being able to have enough time to heal the body. When you go to sleep, the body is healing, but it's just enough. It's just not enough time that we have to spend on healing the body completely, which is why meditation is required, to where, you spend some of your time in the day meditating to handle healing your body while you are conscious. So this is why, monks live a long time. A lot of people who are really healthy live a long time, because they don't have so much, the stress on the body, and it doesn't take so much time for the body to heal. So this is one of the reasons, one of the problems that we deal with, not being connected, not being fully conscious, us being trapped, so to speak, in this flesh. So you have this whole concept of being trapped in flesh with the Gnostics. And I said we would get into Gnosticism a little bit here. Now, the Gnostics talk about the God of this world trapping us in flesh. And a lot of times when people hear about Gnosticism and the teachings of Gnosticism, they say, well, it's just a knockoff of the Bible, they copy the Bible, what have you. But what a lot of people don't know is that there has been Gnostics around, long before the Bible and the Torah. You have Plato talking about the demiurge, which would be the Satan of Gnosticism. The demiurge, or demiurgus, which translates to the carpenter or craftsman or architect. The demiurge basically would be the one who was responsible for trapping us in this evil flesh. So you have Plato talking about this in Timaeus, which we're talking about, 4th century BCE, long time ago. And you have Plato talking about in Timaeus about the demiurge. So you have Gnosticism, and you have this connection with Plato talking about demiurge and us being trapped in flesh, and Plato also talking about Atlantis. And you see, everything starts to fit.